Welcome to today's Lost Souls, where we bring you the most impactful and unforgettable stories from around the world. Today, we remember the lives of remarkable individuals whose legacies continue to inspire and resonate. From iconic musicians to trailblazing activists, join us as we celebrate their extraordinary contributions and bid farewell to those who have left an indelible mark on our lives. Stay tuned for a journey through their incredible stories.
James Baker, James Addison. Baker III, one of the most influential and skilled political strategists in modern American history, has passed away at the age of 94. Known for his sharp intellect, calm demeanor under pressure, and unmatched ability to navigate the most turbulent political waters, Baker's name is etched into the core of U.S. diplomacy and politics across multiple decades. Born in Houston, Texas on April 28, 1930, James Baker came from a family that valued hard work, loyalty, and quiet excellence. He attended Princeton University and later earned his law degree from the University of Texas at Austin. Yet it wasn't until later in life that he entered the political arena. Encouraged by his close friend George H.W. Bush after the tragic death of Baker's first wife. What started as a personal gesture of support turned into a legendary political career. Baker first rose to prominence as campaign manager for Gerald Ford's 1976 presidential run, but it was his role in Ronald Reagan's administration that solidified his reputation. As Chief of Staff and later as Secretary of the Treasury, Baker played an instrumental role in shaping Reagan-era policy, particularly in managing economic reform and international trade. His ability to balance conservatism with pragmatic diplomacy earned him respect from both sides of the aisle. Perhaps his most pivotal role came during the George H.W. Bush administration, when he served as Secretary of State. It was under Baker's steady hand that the United States managed some of the most defining moments of the late 20th century: the end of the Cold War, the reunification of Germany, and the Gulf War. Baker's diplomacy was marked by patience, foresight, and a commitment to building alliances. Foreign leaders respected him, U.S. allies trusted him. Despite the immense power he wielded, Baker remained a grounded and loyal friend, especially to the Bush family. He was famously present during George H.W. Bush's final moments, holding his hand and reading him prayers. That loyalty and emotional intelligence were trademarks of Baker's entire life, both in politics and in private. Outside the political arena, Baker was a philanthropist, mentor, and statesman. He co-founded the Baker Institute for Public Policy at Rice University, a nonpartisan think tank aimed at promoting thoughtful and informed dialogue on national and global issues. His work after retirement often centered on strengthening institutions, upholding democratic values, and mentoring the next generation of diplomats and leaders. James Baker's life was one of service, diplomacy, and quiet heroism. He didn't seek the spotlight, but couldn't help commanding it through competence and composure. For decades, when America found itself in crisis or transition, it was often Baker who was called upon to guide the nation through it. His death leaves a significant void in the world of statecraft. He is survived by his wife Susan, his children, grandchildren, and a legacy of integrity, diplomacy, and service that few can match. James Baker's story is a testament to what thoughtful, ethical, and determined leadership can achieve. His memory will endure as a symbol of what it means to serve one's country with both strength and grace. Millena Brandão, the celebrated Brazilian actress and playwright whose fierce passion for theater transformed stages across Latin America, has passed away at the age of 62. Her legacy, etched in decades of fearless storytelling and relentless artistic exploration, leaves behind a void in the world of performing arts that will not easily be filled. Born in São Paulo in 1962, Millena grew up surrounded by music, poetry, and the vibrant rhythms of Brazilian street life. From an early age, she displayed a rare sensitivity to human emotion and a magnetic presence that drew people in, even before she spoke a word. Her journey into acting began in community theaters, where she performed barefoot on makeshift stages, pouring every ounce of herself into roles that reflected the lives of everyday people. Her rise in the Brazilian theater scene was meteoric. What set Millena apart wasn't just her talent, it was her unwavering commitment to truth. Whether portraying a grieving mother during Brazil's dictatorship era or a spirited street vendor in a contemporary comedy, she brought raw authenticity and depth to every role. She didn't act to impress, she acted to awaken. Her performances weren't just seen, they were felt deep in the soul. In the 1980s, she co-founded Grupo Raiz, a revolutionary theater troupe known for its politically charged productions and street performances. Their shows often pushed boundaries, sometimes facing censorship. But Millena never backed down. She believed that theater was not just art, but a mirror, and sometimes a hammer, to shape society. "If people don't leave my play changed in some way, I have failed," she once said in a passionate interview. Millena's talent eventually reached television and film, but she always returned to the stage, her true home. Her scripts tackled topics that were often avoided: race, poverty, abuse, political corruption. She used the theater to speak truths others were afraid to voice, often casting unknown actors to give them a chance to rise, just as she once did. Her most iconic production, Vozes da Terra, Voices of the Land, became a symbol of resistance and resilience. The play toured internationally, earning standing ovations in Paris, Lisbon, and New York. Through it all, Millena remained deeply connected to her roots, often returning to her old neighborhood in São Paulo to teach free acting classes to children with big dreams and few resources. Outside the spotlight, Millena was a quiet force of nature, mentoring young artists, organizing grassroots workshops, and standing with marginalized communities during times of crisis. Her humility was as legendary as her stage presence. She never forgot where she came from, and never stopped believing in the power of art to transform lives. In her final years, as illness quietly took hold, Millena continued to write. Her last project, a deeply personal one-woman show titled Ultima Luz, Last Light, explored mortality, memory, and what it means to leave a legacy. Though the play never premiered during her lifetime, rehearsals were described by those close to her as some of her most transcendent work. It is expected to be posthumously produced as a final tribute to her extraordinary life. Millena Brandão's passing is not just a loss to Brazil, but to the global arts community. She was more than a performer. She was a warrior for truth, a mother to generations of actors, and a relentless believer in the beauty and pain of humanity. She is survived by her two daughters, Ana and Luisa, and countless students, colleagues, and admirers whose lives were changed by her art and her spirit. In the words of a line from her play, Vozes da Terra, "We do not die when our hearts stop, we die when our stories are no longer told." Millena Brandão's story will continue to echo across stages, streets, and hearts for generations to come. Charlie Scales. Charlie Scales, a dynamic running back who helped pave the way for African-American athletes during one of the NFL's most transformative eras, has passed away at the age of 86. Known not only for his tenacity on the field, but also for his strength of character off it, Charlie's legacy extends far beyond football. It's written in the fabric of progress, perseverance, and pride. Born in 1938 in Dayton, Ohio, Charlie came of age during a time when segregation still stained much of America. Raised in a tight-knit community with strong values, he learned early the power of hard work and determination. He wasn't the biggest or fastest boy in the neighborhood, but on the field, Charlie ran with the kind of heart you couldn't coach, unyielding, fierce, and impossible to ignore. After standing out in high school, Charlie earned a spot at Notre Dame, a monumental achievement for a black athlete in the 1950s. There, he faced adversity that could have broken others: racial taunts, exclusion, and systemic barriers that tried to keep him on the sidelines. But Charlie refused to be sidelined. Instead, he ran harder, studied longer, and held his head higher, eventually earning a spot in professional football. In 1960, he joined the Pittsburgh Steelers and later played with the Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati Bengals during an NFL era that was evolving rapidly. As a running back, Charlie wasn't just a contributor. He was a catalyst. His ability to read defenses, push through tackles, and find daylight where others saw none made him a valuable weapon for every team he played on. Teammates remember him as a quiet leader, one who let his play speak volumes but never hesitated to lend a hand, a word of advice, or a shoulder when someone needed it. But Charlie's greatest impact wasn't measured in touchdowns or rushing yards. It was in the doors he helped open. As one of the few black players in the league during his time, he bore the weight of history with humility and strength. He refused to let the prejudice of the world define him or limit those who would come after him. He mentored younger black athletes, spoke out for fair treatment, and became a symbol of grace under pressure. After his playing days, Charlie continued to make a difference. He returned to Dayton and became deeply involved in community work, especially with underprivileged youth. He coached high school football not to chase wins, but to mold young men into disciplined, respectful, and driven individuals. Many of those boys, now men, credit Coach Scales with changing the trajectory of their lives.
In interviews, Charlie was always modest about his achievements. "I just ran the ball and tried to do the right thing," he once said. But to those who knew him, that right thing echoed in everything he did. Whether it was quietly paying for a student's books, organizing a charity event, or just showing up when someone needed him, Charlie made an impact in ways that never made headlines, but changed lives. In recognition of his contributions, both on and off the field, Charlie received numerous awards over the years, including Community Leadership Honors and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the NFL Alumni Association. Still, he remained a humble man, preferring to sit in the stands at a high school game, offering encouragement to the next generation, rather than bask in the spotlight. Charlie Scales is survived by his wife of 58 years, Loretta, their 4 children, and a host of grandchildren. He leaves behind a community that loved him, a game that remembers him, and a country that, whether it knew it or not, was made better by his presence. His story is one of quiet power, unwavering dignity, and the kind of courage that doesn't demand attention but commands respect. Charlie Scales didn't just play football, he made history. And now his legacy carries forward in every young athlete who dares to dream bigger, run harder, and live with purpose. David Thomas. David Thomas, the celebrated Welsh opera bass and revered voice teacher, known for his powerful stage presence and deep resonant voice, passed away at the age of 80. A man whose talent moved audiences to tears and whose mentorship shaped the voices of future stars, David's departure marks a poignant moment for the world of classical music. Born in Swansea, Wales, in 1944, David's journey was forged in the heart of a proud and musical culture. Wales, often called the land of song, gave him his first taste of music through chapel hymns and community choirs. Even as a boy, people would turn their heads when young David sang. His voice, even then, carried the weight of something extraordinary. He earned a scholarship to the Royal Academy of Music in London, where he trained under some of the most respected vocal instructors of his time. His range, depth, and clarity soon caught the attention of the opera world. By the late 1960s, David was performing in prestigious venues across Europe, including the Royal Opera House, La Scala in Milan, and the Vienna State Opera. David's commanding bass voice gave life to characters like Sarastro in The Magic Flute, King Philip in Don Carlo, and Mephistopheles in Faust. But it wasn't just his voice that made him unforgettable, it was his emotional intelligence. He had a way of embodying each role so completely that audiences felt every heartbreak, triumph, and terror the character experienced. Critics described his performances as cathedral-like, grand, complex, and spiritually affecting. One review of his Don Giovanni performance called it a portrayal so human it bordered on divine. Despite his global success, David never lost his connection to Wales. He returned often to perform in community events, lead master classes, and even sing in his childhood chapel when asked. He believed in the transformative power of music and that it should be accessible to everyone, not just those who could afford an opera ticket. In the 1990s, David began teaching voice full-time at the Royal College of Music. His students speak of him not only as a brilliant technician, but as a nurturing mentor. He was patient, demanding, and endlessly encouraging. "Let the music come from your soul," he would say. "Technique will follow truth." He coached dozens of rising stars, many of whom now sing on international stages. His teaching style was gentle but firm. If a student faltered, David didn't scold. He guided. "We're not chasing perfection," he once told a nervous soprano before her debut. "We're chasing sincerity." Away from the limelight, David was a quiet man who enjoyed gardening, baking Welsh cakes, and listening to early recordings of Maria Callas and Jussi Björling. He loved reading poetry, especially Dylan Thomas, and often recited verses to friends over tea. Those who knew him best describe a man of immense warmth and quiet wisdom, a person who never spoke unless he had something worth saying. David never married, but his circle of friends and former students became his extended family. He kept in touch with them, remembered their birthdays, sent notes before big performances, and always offered a listening ear. His kindness was as profound as his voice. In 2012, David was awarded the Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, for services to music and education. He accepted the honor with characteristic humility, saying only, "I've been lucky to live a life surrounded by song." Even in his final years, when illness weakened his body, David never stopped teaching. He held virtual lessons from his home, encouraging young singers to keep creating despite challenges. As long as you have breath, he told them, you have a song. David Thomas leaves behind a rich legacy, not only in recordings and accolades, but in every note sung by those he inspired. His voice will echo through the concert halls of memory, and his teachings will continue in the artistry of future generations. Though the curtain has now fallen, the music he gave to the world will never cease. Will Hutchins. Will Hutchins, the affable cowboy who brought a unique blend of humor, charm, and decency to the television western, passed away at the age of 94. Known to millions as Tom Brewster in the beloved TV series Sugarfoot, Will was more than just a television star. He was a cultural symbol of a more innocent era in Hollywood, a reminder of the days when good guys wore white hats and believed in doing what was right, no matter the cost. Born as Marshall Lowell Hutchison in Los Angeles in 1930, Will grew up surrounded by the golden glow of California sunshine and the glimmer of movie sets just beyond the hills. Though his early dreams were not initially aimed at stardom, his love of storytelling and comedy would eventually lead him into the heart of 1950s television. He studied at Pomona College and later earned a degree in theater arts from UCLA. It was during those years that his lanky frame, expressive blue eyes, and boyish smile caught the attention of Warner Brothers, who quickly signed him to a contract. In 1957, he was cast as the lead in Sugarfoot, and Will Hutchins became a household name almost overnight. What made Sugarfoot special wasn't just the frontier action, it was Will himself. As Tom Brewster, a law student turned reluctant hero, he brought a gentle, almost comedic approach to the Western genre. Unlike the hardened gunslingers of the time, Tom was thoughtful, reluctant to fight, and always looked for peaceful resolutions first. Will played him with a twinkle in his eye and a warmth that endeared him to viewers of all ages. His portrayal broke the mold of traditional Western heroes. He wasn't stoic or stern, he was human, vulnerable, and sincere. This everyman quality gave the show depth and made Will a trailblazer in a genre dominated by grit and gunfire. Beyond Sugarfoot, Will made appearances in other popular series of the era, including Maverick, Cheyenne, and 77 Sunset Strip. He also appeared in films, most notably opposite Elvis Presley in Clambake, and had a memorable role in Spin Out. Though his movie career never eclipsed his television fame, Will brought his signature likability to every role he touched. But his heart never really left the small screen, or the fans who loved him. Long after his Hollywood years faded, Will remained deeply connected to his admirers. He penned charming, humorous letters to fan magazines, gave interviews filled with wit and nostalgia, and appeared at Western film festivals and memorabilia shows with the same spark that lit up TV screens decades earlier. In later years, he wrote for Western Clippings magazine, sharing behind-the-scenes stories of Hollywood's golden era with grace, humility, and more than a few laughs. He never took himself too seriously and often joked that he stumbled into stardom just by smiling at the right person. Off-screen, Will was devoted to his wife Barbara and their children. He often credited Barbara as his anchor, saying she kept him grounded while the world celebrated him as a star. Together, they built a life full of simple joys, family dinners, home projects, and raising horses on a small ranch. Friends described him as playful, intelligent, and deeply generous. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of film history, a love for classic vaudeville, and a fondness for slapstick humor. He could just as easily recite Shakespeare as he could tell a bawdy joke. That blend of sophistication and silliness made him unforgettable. Will Hutchins leaves behind more than a filmography. He leaves behind a legacy of kindness, laughter, and heart. A gentle soul who reminded us that heroes don't always shoot the fastest or talk the toughest. Sometimes they just smile, tip their hat, and choose the better way. In a time when legends are few and far between, Will Hutchins stood tall, not just on screen, but in life. And though the old westerns have grown quiet, his spirit rides on in every fan who remembers the boyish cowboy who never lost his sense of wonder. Ruth Bowie. Ruth Bowie, the elegant and ever-graceful British actress known for her riveting performances on stage and screen, has passed away at the remarkable age of 101. With a career that spanned decades and touched countless lives, Ruth embodied the golden age of British theater and left behind a legacy of poise, passion, and performance that will forever echo through the halls of drama. Born in London in 1923, Ruth grew up amidst the hardships of post-World War I Britain. But even as a child, her spirit sparkled with a rare brightness. She would put on plays in her garden, using blankets as curtains and her siblings as reluctant co-stars. By the age of 12, it was clear that Ruth wasn't just playing pretend, she was preparing for the stage. She studied at the prestigious Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA, where her sharp intelligence, crisp diction, and emotional range quickly set her apart. In a class full of hopefuls, Ruth stood tall, not because she sought attention, but because talent like hers refused to be ignored. Her early years in repertory theater were marked by long nights, grueling travel, and performances in front of sparse audiences. But Ruth never complained. She once said, "If even one person is moved by what I do, then I've done my job." That mindset would carry her into the hearts of audiences across the United Kingdom and beyond. By the 1950s, Ruth's name was becoming a staple in British theater. She performed in everything from Shakespeare to Shaw, portraying queens and commoners with equal conviction. Directors adored her, not just for her professionalism, but for her ability to lose herself entirely in a role. She had a gift for making every character, whether tragic or comedic, feel achingly human. She transitioned seamlessly to television and film during the 1960s and 70s, with standout roles in British dramas that earned her critical acclaim. While never seeking stardom, Ruth's work garnered her a devoted following. Her performances were never loud or showy. Instead, they carried the quiet power of a woman who understood the human soul. But Ruth's influence wasn't confined to the stage. Off-screen, she was a tireless advocate for arts education, believing that drama could be a lifeline for young people searching for expression. She founded several community theater initiatives in underprivileged areas and personally mentored dozens of aspiring actors. For many, she was more than a mentor. She was a mother figure, a guiding light, and a true friend. Despite her growing fame, Ruth remained deeply humble. She lived in a modest flat in Hampstead, surrounded by books, scripts, and the warm clutter of a life devoted to art. Visitors to her home often found her reading poetry aloud, sipping tea, and sharing stories about long-forgotten plays and lost theater traditions. In 2013, at the age of 90, Ruth made a surprise return to the stage for a one-woman show, a deeply personal performance about aging, memory, and the passage of time. Critics hailed it as a masterclass in vulnerability, and young actors sat in awe as she breathed life into every line. That performance was her farewell, a beautiful bow from a life steeped in artistic truth. Ruth never married and had no children of her own, but her family extended far beyond blood. It included the students she mentored, the audiences she moved, and the countless actors who drew courage from her example. In her later years, she often said, "The theater raised me, fed me, and loved me back. I have no regrets." She was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award by the British Academy of Dramatic Arts and received a quiet but emotional standing ovation that lasted nearly 5 minutes. Ruth bowed with tears in her eyes, grateful, overwhelmed, and ever humble. Ruth Bowie's passing marks the end of an era, but her influence will linger like the final note of a perfect performance. She reminded us that acting is not just about lines and costumes. It's about truth, empathy, and connection. She lived her life with dignity, elegance, and an unwavering devotion to her craft. And though the curtain has now fallen, Ruth's story will continue to inspire generations of performers, dreamers, and storytellers.